If you asked global analysts 20 years ago whether an African nation could run a nuclear power plant safely for decades, most of them would have laughed. They would have cited stereotypes about unstable grids, weak institutions, insufficient technical expertise, and all the usual condescending phrases used to downplay African capability. And yet, as those same analysts sit in their air-conditioned offices writing pessimistic reports, Africa just quietly pulled off something that forces them to rewrite their assumptions from scratch. Coburg Nuclear Power Plant, standing tall near Cape Town since the early 1980s, has officially secured a 20-year operating license extension for Unit 2. That means this African nuclear facility is now authorized to operate until 2045. Not because someone felt generous, not because the regulator wanted a headline, but because Coburg proved, through rigorous evaluation, that it meets every single safety, structural, and regulatory standard expected of a world-class nuclear installation. Let's speak plainly for a moment. Nuclear regulators do not compromise. They do not issue partial approvals. They do not say, close enough. Either the plant meets the long-term operational criteria, or it doesn't. Coburg met them, fully, completely, confidently. This was not a shallow review. The National Nuclear Regulator conducted a detailed, multi-year assessment covering everything from seismic safety to reactor pressure vessel integrity, emergency protocols, steam generator performance, radiation containment, cooling systems, personnel training levels, and compliance with international nuclear operation standards. The process is so strict that even some European facilities struggle to pass on the first attempt. Yet Coburg did. This is where the story gets even more powerful. This extension for Unit 2 comes right after Unit 1 received its own license renewal last year. So South Africa didn't just renew one reactor, they secured both units, planting a flag in the future and saying, Africa will have nuclear stability for the next 2 decades. This alone shatters decades of global stereotypes. For years, Africa was told that nuclear energy was too advanced, too sensitive, too technical for the continent. Meanwhile, Coburg was quietly doing what many developed countries still haven't mastered. Maintaining nuclear reactors safely for 40 consecutive years. Let that sink in. South Africa built this plant in the 1980s, ran it through political transitions, economic ups and downs, leadership changes, and shifting global energy landscapes. And yet the plant never lost its status as one of the continent's most reliable energy assets. That level of stability doesn't happen by accident. It happens through discipline, technical expertise, and the dedication of thousands of African professionals who spent their careers perfecting a system many outsiders assumed would fail. And now that the world sees Coburg thriving into 2045, the conversation has shifted. Africa isn't the continent trying to catch up. Africa is the continent proving what's possible when talent, training, and long-term vision align. So now we must ask the bigger question. Why does securing these 20 extra years of nuclear operation matter so much for Africa's long-term energy future? Well, this 20-year extension matters because it locks in 1,860 megawatts of clean, reliable, round-the-clock electricity for South Africa. And by extension, the entire African energy conversation. If you want to understand the true power of this moment, you have to understand what nuclear energy actually represents. It's not just another energy source, it's the backbone of a stable modern grid. And that's exactly what Africa needs: stability, predictability, and long-term reliability. Because what happens when the sun sets on solar plants? What happens when the wind slows over turbines? What happens when drought lowers water levels at hydro dams? Africa knows the answer all too well. Power cuts, factory...
Why is it that we are advocating for nuclear to power Africa's electricity needs? Unlike popular renewable sources of power such as solar and wind, nuclear power is not...
Shutdowns, economic losses, public frustration, and the painful cycle of load shedding that reshapes daily life in ways the rest of the world can barely imagine.